It's that time of year where the obligatory top 10, top 5, top 20, top 50, top whatever lists start coming out, and well, they've already been out for a while by now. So I figured I'd make a video for this one this time. This year is the top 20 games I played in 2014. Now, emphasis on the I played part of that, because unlike most lists you'll be seeing about video games around this time, I am not doing this exclusively for the year 2014. These games come from a wide variety of years and time periods, and well, if I were to make it 2014 exclusive, it would be very sparse, to say the least. With that, let's begin the list. Number 20. Number 20 is Fate Extra, a game for the PSP based on the Fate Stay Night series. It's an alternate universe, so it is also newcomer friendly. You don't have to have any knowledge on the series to play it, and you can just dive in head first. The main appeal of Fate Extra is, well, the story and the characters. The characters are given quite a lot of depth, and the story is entertaining. It's not the most well-written story, but it explores quite a bit. There's a certain amount of replayability to this game, as you can choose different characters and a couple of different paths. Music-wise, it's pretty solid. The music is lots of fun and really sticks with you. Visually, it's kind of unimpressive, even by PSP standards, but I would say that the art style is nice. I do like the drawings that are included. Just not so much the quality of the models, but this is PSP. It's not to be expected to be amazing. The gameplay is a mixed bag. It's a dungeon crawler, and while I do like it at its core, it's also not very well executed. The gameplay suffers from randomization, and those random elements can kill hours of grinding, and it's not a lot of fun. And that's why it's so low on the list. Number 19. Super Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair. Yeah. This game made me despair, alright. I do like it, but it just didn't live up to the first game, both gameplay and story-wise. The gameplay, well, they added in some really annoying sections, like the swords, for example. God, that shit was annoying. The story is a mixed bag. Some cases are pretty amazing, some cases are meh. One case is an absolute nightmare, and another case is a bit half and half. I remember Danganronpa being fairly consistent in its story quality, and I remember having a lot of fun. This time I didn't have anywhere near as much, but there are still many great moments within this game, and it's certainly worth checking it out if you have a PlayStation Vita. Number 18. Thomas Was Alone. That's right, it's that indie game where squares come to life and have personalities. It sounds a bit pretentious, and it probably is, but the fact that they were able to make something where I could care about some squares, well, that's pretty amazing to me. It makes the list on presentation alone, with nice music, nice visuals, simple that they are, and the gameplay is kind of fun as well. It's a very basic puzzle platformer, but it's still a lot of fun, and that's why it made the list onto this relatively low spot. Number 17. Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back for the PlayStation 1. This was a game that I missed out on back in the day, and I was able to get my hands on it due to the PSN on the PS Vita. Out of all the Crash Bandicoot games I've played, this is probably the most fun, but it also has its fair share of painful levels that kinda dick you around. does have a solid soundtrack, solid art style. However, it's not aged perfectly, but it's still a hell of a lot of fun. Number 16. Shantae. We've already talked about Shantae, I don't think I need to cover this too much. It's a solid platform adventure game with quite a few flaws. If you want to learn more, go find my video review for it. Number 15. The Stanley Parable. I'm not too keen on these narrative-based games that feel more like walking simulators, but The Stanley Parable is the best of its kind. It's funny, witty, hilarious, all those things that basically mean the same thing. It really drew me in, and I just had an absolute blast with it. It doesn't have the replay value though, and well, it's very basic to look at, but it's just an experience that I really recommend highly. Number 14. Now here's a game I absolutely never thought would make this list. Kirby's Dream Course. I didn't have the best first impressions of this, but it grew on me as time went by, and I actually bothered to learn the intricacies. Kirby's Dream Course is a puzzle golf game. Each course gives you a particular challenge, and while there are many ways to get to the end goal, there's usually one or two ideal ways for you to solve the problem. Now, what makes this game amazing, or list-worthy, is the power-ups that you get during the golf session. These power-ups have various functions that add more depth to the gameplay and just allow you to do a bunch of crazy things. They can really save your bacon, and it's really addicting. Number 13. Mega Man 3. Mega Man is guaranteed for good fun, but I wouldn't say it's my favourite series of all time. Mega Man 3 is one of the better Mega Man games. It definitely sits nice and comfortably under Mega Man 2, and there's not that huge of a difference. Mega Man 3 has quite a lot of content and a lot of interesting levels, a lot of interesting bosses, a lot of interesting weapons. But it also has a Doc Robot. Thinking back on it, the Doc Robot sections were just really painful, and when you get to the Wily sections, they're really easy in comparison, and it's not a very nice difficulty curve. That final Wily Fortress run is meant to be this teeth-gritting experience, and that just didn't happen. But it's still an absolutely amazing game. Number 12. Fire Emblem, also known as FE7, or Fire Emblem Breaking no Ken for the Game Boy Advance. I've already talked plenty about this, and if you want to see my awful quality video on it, you can go look that up on this channel. But suffice to say, it was a lot of fun. I absolutely love this series, and it's always welcome on these types of lists. It certainly earned its spot. It is lower simply because everything else is kind of higher. And there are some minor issues like characters that I didn't really care about or remember, and some weird difficulty curve issues, but overall it's a solid Fire Emblem game. It's no Shadow Dragon, so you don't have to worry about that. Number 11. Batman Arkham City Armored Edition. Now, I'm hearing some people say, "Why'd you play the Armored Edition? You know, that's got forced touchscreen controls and motion controls and all that jazz." Well, yeah, it does have some forced touchscreen controls, and that loses some points. It's also kind of buggy, so it loses some points. But Batman Arkham City is fun. You go around the huge expansive city, solving the Riddler puzzles, bashing up people, doing Batman things like the gliding and the grappling and the whoa hey! However, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum was much more Metroidvania in its story progression, and while it is technically more constricted, I think that works with the type of gameplay that they were going for. It's more focused, but doesn't necessarily overly restrict you. While Arkham City gives you a bit too much free reign early on, and there's not as big of a sense of discovery. Number 10. Gravity Rush for the PS Vita. Gravity Rush was the game that I bought the PS Vita for, and while that may sound stupid, it's not as stupid as you think it would be. Solid art design, solid music, along with the really interesting gravity manipulation based gameplay was just amazing. I won't say that I cared much for its narrative. You go flying around as this super kick-ass person with mystical powers, and you kick the crap out of bad guys, and you fly with gravity, you slide around on the things upside down, you collect all these purple things, and you collect more purple things, and you upgrade your things. Gotta love Gravity Rush. That's why it's number 10. Gravity. Number 9. Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright for the 3DS. Now, this is nowhere near the best Phoenix Wright game, and it's not really the best Professor Layton game. As far as Professor Layton games go, this is the easiest and most user-friendly. It doesn't punish you anywhere near as much as the normal series does, and you'll find that the puzzles are much more manageable and less math-intensive. As a Phoenix Wright game, it's kind of average. It just doesn't live up as much as it should story-wise, and the versus is kind of unnecessary. It doesn't really feel like there's any competitive rivalry going on here. The voice acting is very mixed. I find they did a great job of mixing the two art styles by having a completely new setting. Instead of reusing a whole bunch of characters from each series, they had a completely new setting which allowed the art styles to intermingle a bit more and not look so out of place as they normally would. Music-wise, I absolutely adore it. A bit remix heavy, but I would say it's a fairly solid soundtrack. It's a really fun adventure game, and there's some cross-examinations, so it's got that Phoenix Wright jams going on. Some of those are pretty clever. It's fairly easy compared to both series, but it's a great place for beginners. I can recommend it. Number 8. Mario Kart 8. After the disappointment that was Mario Kart Wii, and to an extent Mario Kart 7, I was really kind of bummed out on Mario Kart. Mario Kart 8 brought it back for me. It's racing fun, brought bikes back, it brought F-Zero back to a degree. The DLC was nice. I haven't played much of it, but it was nice that they included elements of Sight Bike, Zelda, F-Zero, and the like. You race around the tracks in usual Mario Kart style, and instead of being hit by blue shells 3 or 4 times a race, they occasionally happen once a cup. And there's actually a method to deal with them. Other than getting lucky with your mushrooms, you can get lucky with the Super Horn, which allows you to counter blue shells and is a pretty neat addition to what was once a broken system. The overall track designs are some of the best we've had in years, and the game is visually beautiful. And the soundtrack, oh, that soundtrack. Just all the saxophone. Gotta love that. I had a really great time with Mario Kart 8. Number 7. The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds on 3DS. I liked A Link to the Past, and this is a pretty solid follow-up. A Link Between Worlds has you buying each item so that you can explore more and more of the world. You can tackle dungeons out of order, and generally explore the world at your own pace. If you want the adventure to be linear, you can make it as linear as you want it to be. If you want to have as much free reign as you can pretty much do that, as long as you have enough rupees. Go around killing enemies, going through dungeons, getting new thingamajiggers, doing side quests, heart containers, all that jazz. It's just lovely. Just a lovely experience. Just really nice and relaxing, except for the goddamn baseball minigame. The baseball minigame can just go shove it, baseball minigame. The music is wonderful, the characters are interesting. The visual design, while very similar to A Link to the Past and reusing a lot of old assets, adds quite a lot of charm to it. There's lots of exploring, collecting, all that jazz that makes the Zelda series fun. Number 6. Valiant Hearts: The Great War. Valiant Hearts is a story-based puzzle game that takes place on a 2D plane for the most part. Valiant Hearts does its best to educate people on World War I through the use of collectibles, which are fairly fun to collect and provide you with interesting knowledge, which you can then look up in greater detail on the internet. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it has some interesting commentary on that era of time. It's nice to see games educate without necessarily taking the invasive dingo bingo approach to education. It actually rewards you with educational information so that you want to, if it gets your curiosity going, you'll want to check it out more in further detail and educate yourself. It's that kind of experience, and that's a positive. It was a fun game that was also emotionally moving, and it earned its spot at number 6.